Welcome back to Still Finding My Voice. I'm Lynne Street, and today I'm honored to welcome Mihai Patru.
There are 110 degrees, but we try to be very visible, very approachable, very accessible to everyone. And, I think this might sound very big, but it's never too late.
Today we're exploring what it really means to live better, longer. Mihai Patru is the executive director of Blue Zones Project Palm Springs, where he leads efforts to create healthier, more connected, and resilient communities across the city. A former career diplomat and social entrepreneur, Mihai brings over a decade of experience in inclusive economic development, entrepreneurship education, and cross-sector collaboration. Before joining Blue Zones, he co-founded and led Caravanserai Alliance for Entrepreneurs, a regional organization that helped thousands of California entrepreneurs access capital and build sustainable businesses. He also served as entrepreneur in residence and senior fellow at the University of California, Riverside, and as a senior fellow at the Center for Transatlantic Relations at Johns Hopkins University's School of Advanced International Studies. In 2022, he was appointed by the Governor of California to the Entrepreneurship and Economic Mobility Task Force. His areas of expertise include startup ecosystem development, social innovation, small business creation, community development, and building strategic partnerships that drive local and regional impact. Mihai holds graduate degrees from University of Bucharest, Romania, Central European University, Hungary, and Johns Hopkins SAIS, Washington, D.C., and is pursuing a doctorate in leadership for educational justice at the University of Redlands. Please help me welcome Mihai.
Good morning.
Good morning. I missed out when you came to Passion Church. I was off on another adventure and I didn't get the opportunity to experience that. So, Mihai, tell me a little bit about yourself and your journey with Blue Zones.
Well, thank you for having me and having Blue Zones Project Palm Springs on your podcast. So, Blue Zones Project Palm Springs started a little over a year ago, March 2025, and I joined the team in October last year. So I've been around for 9-10 months.
Okay.
And Blue Zones Project Palm Springs is a community-wide well-being initiative led by Blue Zones LLC. Blue Zones is a national corporation that was founded about 25 years ago by Dan Buettner. He is a National Geographic Fellow, a New York Times bestseller author, and he dedicated his entire career to understanding what are the conditions in communities for people to live better, longer lives. And last year, Blue Zones started Blue Zones Project Palm Springs in Palm Springs, which is one of the next communities that will become a Blue Zone certified community. And that goal is for March 2028. So we have 2 more years.
That's wonderful. Hey, I've always wanted to live a healthy life, and I'm making steps to do that. And I also read there's 5 Blue Zones across the world, correct? Okinawa,
Yes.
Japan is one of them, which I've been to Okinawa, but I didn't know at the time anything about Blue Zones.
Yes, correct. The original 5, Okinawa in Japan, Sardinia in Italy, Icaria in Greece, Nicoya in Costa Rica, and not far from Palm Springs is Loma Linda, California.
Loma Linda,
And
right.
those were the original 5 that inspired what Blue Zones is today and what Blue Zones is doing today in communities, because Dan Buettner, as I mentioned, 25 years ago, with a group of researchers and academics and scientists, started looking into these 5 original blue zones to understand why this community is. People in those communities live not only in longer lives, but also healthier lives. And those years spent researching and understanding what's happening in those communities came into what Blue Zones inspired Blue Zones as a organization and the work that Blue Zones is doing throughout the US. The name Blue Zones comes from, as they were doing the research and looking at different maps, they were using blue dots to identify those communities.
Can I ask you, when I think about a healthier lifestyle, a lot of people think it's just about diet, about not eating too much red meat or sometimes eating meat. There's so much confusion. Now we've got shots, the GLP-2, whatever shots and all that. But it also includes laughter, which I understand. It includes community, faith. Aren't there 5 different areas that they focus on? Faith, community. What are the other 3 I'm missing?
So from my perspective, and I think, what Blue Zones is showing is our approach to healthier, longer lives is everything around us contributes to well-being. I think our immediate thoughts, as you mentioned, was eating better, eating healthier, eating less meat, eating more greens, and, all these traditional things that I think all of us grew up with, going to the gym, exercise, and of course, what we eat, it's extremely important. But there are so many factors that influence our well-being. And, living, it's not only about living, it's also about living healthier and being happier.
Right.
What's the point of living longer if you have a miserable existence because of different conditions or
Right.
really question our ability or the experience that we have as we live longer. So really Blue Zones is looking at a lot of those pieces of the puzzle and understand, try to create an environment where each piece of the puzzle contributes to happier, healthier, longer lives. And aside from food, obviously movement, and it's not necessarily around going to the gym on a regular basis, any type of natural movement activity, whether it's gardening, whether it's walking, hiking, biking,
How about bowling, Mihai?
any type of physical activity
Right.
that, we think of being healthy costs a lot of money. Taking a walk doesn't cost anything.
Very good
Or,
point.
as you mentioned, bowling that's natural movement, right? You exercise. And I think, probably my favorite example is gardening, right? You don't really think about gardening as physical exercise, but it is. So that's, part of the physical activity. And another important fact is socializing. We all know that depression and social isolation is such devastating factors in our daily lives.
Absolutely.
So a
Absolutely.
lot of what Blue Zones is promoting and advocating for is creating spaces where communities can get together. And to your point, the reason Blue Zones Project Palm Springs partnered with Passion Church and supported Passion Church to become a Blue Zones approved organization is really because faith-based communities create a church is a space where people get together. They spend time together. They communicate. They interact, whether they know each other or not, or whether they have a personal history or not. It's really a space where we get to meet people, we get to interact, we get to talk to people, we get to know each other. So that's such an
Absolutely.
important aspect of what Blue Zones supports. All our programs are at the core of bringing the community together, bringing people together at the core with the same goal in mind. Social connectivity is probably the most important or the first aspect of having a healthier, longer life.
Absolutely. I have a personal example that reminds me of exactly what you're saying about community. I moved 2.5 hours away from where I lived last year. When I came to this location, I didn't know anybody, Mihai, just like you're talking about community. A very dear friend of mine said, why don't you talk to Olive Crest? There's somebody I know out in the Coachella Valley that you may want to get to know. So I spoke to Todd from Olive Crest. He said, oh, by the way, if you're looking for a church, why don't you give Passion Church a try in Palm Springs? And I said, okay. I went with a positive attitude. I'll see, maybe it's for me, maybe it's not. As soon as I got there, I was like, this is the place for me. And I was starting to build community because it was such a welcoming and giving church.
Yeah, and I think in the times that we live, I think it's so easy to isolate ourselves. And
Absolutely.
Blue Zones Project, what it's trying to do is really creating an infrastructure in the community, whether it's a church, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a small business, any type of whether it's a neighborhood, any type of entity, legal or as a business or just an HOA if you want,
Right.
really creating that infrastructure in the community that grows organically and develops organically, but also in the same time, there is a lot of intentionality behind it. Because we know it's very easy to postpone things, it's very easy to
Absolutely.
get distracted by our devices and movies at home. We don't go to cinema as much as, we used to. Everything gets within
Right.
our,
There's
four
Netflix,
walls,
HBO.
right?
Why would I leave my home? Right.
Exactly. So I think, it's the intentionality part that allows us to create those basically habits. And sometimes it requires relearning some of those habits
Good point.
that, maybe we might have lost because it was so easy. COVID obviously didn't help much in keeping our social interaction at the levels that we hopefully used to have. So I think it is that intentionality that Blue Zones is advocating for, but also creating that infrastructure in the community. And that's, I think, for 3 years, especially in Palm Springs, until Palm Springs will meet all the requirements to become a Blue Zones certified community, creating that infrastructure, as I mentioned, that will continue for many, many years. At Blue Zones, we say that our goal is to make healthier choices the easier choices.
I am an introvert by nature. So it's difficult for me to be intentional, like you said, to go out for the first time and meet new people, to talk to people in my community if they're not coming to me and talking to me. It's very easy for me, Lynn, to sit back and go, well, I'll just sit at home with the dogs. But I've had to be intentional. I get out every morning at 6 a.m., walk, and through that, I've met more people out on the street. But it's uncomfortable. But I hear what you're saying. I have to be intentional, and I want to encourage the audience of Still Finding My Voice to be intentional, to get out, find a church, find a community, go have a glass of red wine with a friend, laughter in the park. I don't know. But it can be difficult, and that isolation is not a good thing.
I think, the area we live in, whether it's Palm Springs or anywhere in the desert, you have to be intentional. You have to get in your car, drive somewhere. That puts an additional pressure. It's not, we don't live in a big city where you can just go and walk. It requires a bit of planning. And I think that we are very much aware of that. That's why Blue Zones, how we support the community is through a lot of events where anyone can show up. You don't have to come with a group. We have a program called Moai. This is inspired by a tradition in Okinawa, where the community members were paired together and they were staying together for many, many years. So we took that model, and these are 10 meetings around something, whether it's walking, whether it's hiking, whether it's a book club, whether it's cooking. Really creating a reason for people to get together, whether they know each other. It doesn't have to be an organized group. And the intention is to bring the same individuals together 10 times. So it creates that habit.
That's
So
wonderful.
that's one of the programs that obviously in the desert is very hot now. So we are designing and preparing for some new programs like that over to start back in end of September, early October. We have one of my favorite programs is called the Purpose Workshop. This is a 2-hour workshop where we really very guided, very structured conversations around purpose. And the goal is to try to incentivize the participants and create some sort of mechanism to really understand what's our purpose. Why do we want to live longer, right? Anytime we are planning to do something, I think the first question should be why. And it's the same with living longer. Why do we want to do that? And
Right.
I think, especially where we are in the desert, a lot of people just like you and me, we were not born in the desert. We did not grow up here. So we moved here for various reasons. And we really need to understand our purpose, whether it's from a professional perspective, personal. And we have this 2-hour guided conversation that is very interactive. And at the end of the workshop, everyone leaves with a draft statement of their purpose. So trying to create that mechanism. How do you think about your purpose from a technical perspective, if you want? What are the pieces that we need to think about where we think about our purpose? And please go
You
ahead.
just got me so excited. I want to say, when's the next one? Because I want to go. You mentioned September?
No, the next one I think will be on August 8th. It's on a Saturday at Sunny Dunes Clubhouse. It's an organization that will host us in Palm Springs.
Okay.
I'll more than happy to share with you the invitation. And it's a very intentional conversation, very structured, creating that intentionality and putting as I mentioned, the technical pieces of how do you think about purpose?
Yes.
How do you structure that thought process or that conversation? And hopefully, we did a number of those at a number of schools, at a number of organizations. And it's really impressive to hear the conversations that happened during those 2 hours and how emotional and how intentional people are. And from the beginning, they realize, well, this is something that I need to figure out because, we don't spend much time thinking, what's our purpose?
Right.
Our current dynamics are so fast. And I don't want to sound preachy because, I think all of us are guilty of that. We don't think much about why are we doing this? What's the intention? And it doesn't have to be our purpose for the next 30 years. We can have multiple purposes, right, for different aspects of our lives, different periods, but really getting to the bottom of why are we doing this? And I
Right.
think,
What drives me in the morning? What makes me want to wake up? It's not just about making a lot of money. It's not about the perfect job. It's a combination of what fills your soul, right?
even if that's the purpose, I mean, who are we to judge, right?
Right. Correct.
Is there more to that, right?
Exactly right.
More money, fine. I mean, we all want to have that access to resources. And I think, those are very important, of course, but there's always more. Why do you want to do that? What's the end goal? Just having more money in our bank account, that's great. That's a goal, but what's the purpose?
Right. Do you
So
want to do
I think,
something with it
that,
down the road? Or I understand you want to
yeah.
travel.
Exactly. And I think, thinking about purpose, it's also about how do we get there? And I think, that's also very, very intentional. When I used to work with small businesses, you were talking about the mission and the vision. And the mission is a process, and the vision is kind of the end goal, is the same with the purpose, right? So those are extremely powerful conversations. And we had people crying. We had people realizing, oh, I'm going to go home and have all my family members go through this process and have this conversation. And that's and especially if you are in a group of people that you've never met, because everyone is welcome. So usually people are in those convenings. We have people that have never met before, and you might think that people might be shy, but they are very open. And I think, that creates a lot of aha moments, if you want, in those conversations. So, yeah, those are, I think, some of the tools that we are using. Also, a big part of our work is really identifying the pieces of the infrastructure that I talked about, right? What are the entities in a community that will continue and will provide support and structure for community members to be intentional about their well-being. A church is an example. We work with nonprofit organizations that have different missions. We work with small businesses like restaurants, grocery stores. We work with schools. We work with work sites, because we believe employers are such an important part of creating a well-being environment. Data shows that we spend over 90,000 hours at work during our lifetime. And
Wow.
that bears the question, what kind of environment do we spend 90,000 hours in? So
Good point.
right? We work with employers, whether organizations that have 8 employers to organizations that have thousands of employers, to work with them and help them create those environments that encourage and support individuals to live better lives. And again, the environment is very important. There is also a piece in well-being that it's about economic development. And when we work with organizations like churches, small businesses, any type of entities, is really how do we help them to expand what they are doing, grow their community, grow their business. So there's also that business conversation that we have, because if an organization is solid, is financially viable, that means they will grow. So they will be stronger in the community. And obviously that changes from one organization to the other depending on their scope of work. But it is also very important. So that's, I think, we are looking at, again, at well-being, at everything around us is well-being. The newest example that I'm very excited about is the police department in Palm Springs.
Oh, tell me about
And
that.
obviously, they are very well respected in the community. They are doing such great work. But I think, very simple things that are at the core of our well-being, like walking, walking your dog. If you don't feel safe in your community, you wouldn't walk. You wouldn't take your dogs for a
Right.
walk. So
Right.
that's, that natural movement, you have a barrier that you face. So working with the police department, of helping them understanding their impact on well-being when it comes to the community has been very important, because if they add that layer of understanding of a community to what they are doing now, the community feels safer and they will be incentivized to walk, to feel safe going out, to feel safe to meet other people. That's the police department, and what our officers are doing in the community will continue for many, many years. So that's the intentionality and the infrastructure I was talking about. So we have some working on some projects with them. We are helping them with their academy for volunteers. As they are onboarding volunteers to support the police department, they also understand the work they are doing from a well-being perspective. And the same with the small restaurant. It's really not providing healthier food options, but also creating that restaurant as a hub for social connectivity in the community. And obviously, from a business perspective, if that will attract more clients, so the restaurant will be more successful. It's a full circle that we try to create around our partners so they become sustainable financially, sustainable from any perspective, because
Emotionally, right.
and
Yes.
also include that in their business strategy at the end of the day. I think each entity, whether it's a church, a police department, a nonprofit, or a for profit, there is a business strategy behind it. So, help them incorporate well being, help them incorporate well being strategies and tools into those strategies. So, help them expand and grow what they are already doing.
Wonderful. Wow. I'm so excited. I'm so pumped for Palm Springs. It's like,
Yeah.
fabulous. Just everything you're doing. Now, that August 8th workshop, is that open to the public?
Yes. Yes. And
Okay.
one very important thing is everything we do in the community is free of cost. When we start working with a partner and get them through the process to become a Blue Zones approved entity, everything we do are free of cost. We also sometimes we help with small incentives that organization if they need some sort of support. We are looking at creative ways of supporting that. So everything we do is free of cost and open to the community because we want to eliminate the barriers that some communities, some groups within our community might have experienced before and use that as a reason not to participate. So everything we do is free of cost. And the reason for that is we have a group of sponsors that support the Blue Zones project, Palm Springs, and the other projects when we go into a community. And in Palm Springs, we have obviously the city of Palm Springs that supports the program, the county of Riverside, Eisenhower, Inland Empire Healthcare Plan, Inland Empire
Wonderful.
Healthcare Plan Foundation, IHP, Molina, Kaiser Permanente, Riverside University Health System. So all these big stakeholders in our communities that support financially, support with infrastructure, with partnerships, the work that they do because they understand the importance and especially the long-term impact that having a healthy community, the impact that a healthy community brings within our ecosystems.
Right. It's like a ripple effect. During these workshops or during these events, is there an opportunity for people? I mean, I'm so pumped up. I'm so excited, Mihai, just from this conversation. Is there an opportunity for us to volunteer? And if we're to do that, who do we contact?
So anyone can in the community that is interested can be part of a workshop or a program. The Moais, the 10 meeting programs from our experience, community members come to us and say, hey, I want to lead a Moai 10 meeting program around cooking or walking or hiking. We have these ambassadors or individuals that want to become Blue Zones ambassadors. On our website, we have a form. Just reach out to any of our team members and volunteer for our events or help us or volunteer to create their own initiative within their group. We have experience with a lot of community members that came to us and say, hey, I'm a yoga instructor. I would like to offer to anyone who's interested yoga classes for free. So they design a Moai, a 10 meeting program around yoga, around natural movement, we had other individuals that had a running group, and they said, hey, I would like to be part of Blue Zones. How can we collaborate? And we started supporting that a running group in Palm Springs. They meet every Wednesday at Cafe La Jefa for an hour, and I joined that group a couple of times and just running downtown Palm Springs. There is a hiking group that one of our ambassadors started, and we just support them with water, with anything, that they need to get the group started. We share the information. So other community members that might want to join. So we have helped some communities develop their community gardens. Again, we are talking about natural movement, and gardening is such a underrated way of
Absolutely.
moving and naturally exercise. We work with the church in North Palm Springs, Agilon Church. We help them develop their community garden with Ramon Mobile Park in Palm Springs. We help them create their community garden. So these are some of the initiatives that came up during our conversation with those communities. We asked them, what is it that we can do? As I mentioned at the beginning, Blue Zones is very community driven. We have obviously a lot of suggestions and a lot of experiences and lessons that we've learned from other communities, other projects. But at the end of the day, it's really about what our communities want and what they feel, that what initiatives help them on their journey towards increasing their well-being. And we have all these conversations with communities, ongoing conversations, and they tell us, well, this is what we would like to do, and can you support us? And this is an initiative that we would like to develop. Or some initiatives are new ideas that we never thought about. So we brainstorm with the community how we can support them and bring the Blue Zones model and tools. Sometimes are things that we already have experiences with, and it's easier to deploy our templates, our tools, and get the work started. But I think, Palm Springs has been such a welcoming and receptive environment, because just like you, a lot of people move into our area because they want to have a better life.
Right.
So people are already open and they are already interested in the tools and the processes that they can use to live better, longer lives.
I have a question, Mihai. You've gone out to the community and you've asked what they need. I love that idea, because I can see how these ambassadors can form these different groups. The 10-week, correct? 10 different groups, or is it 10 weeks?
10 meetings, ideally the same individuals. We create a cohort and the intention is that even after 10 weeks, during 10 weeks, we create that habit.
Right.
And that community, and hopefully they will continue for many, many weeks after the first ideation, if you want, of that group.
And maybe even become ambassadors themselves once they're a part of a group, which makes me wonder, if you've gone out to the community, Mihai, and you've asked the community, what do you need to make you want to be more active, or what are you missing? Do you have a list of different ideas and topics that somebody like myself could run with? Because my background is in dancing. I was a professional dancer for 23 years, many, many years ago, but I still have the love and joy for it. And I'm thinking maybe they don't want to do ballet, but maybe they want to do disco or something fun like that brings some joy.
I think I would love to have Moai around dancing, right? Where people, get together and maybe each session is a different style.
Right.
I would love to be able to do that in the community. And I think, it will be a huge success. I want to say I can guarantee you, but I would be surprised for a dancing not to be a hit in Palm Springs, because we walk a lot. People love to hike in Palm Springs, but dancing is natural movement. So I would love to
Absolutely.
explore that idea, and we can figure out a space where that's, I think, where our working with Blue Zone is a huge advantage because we have our network of entities, organizations is so wide. We can make
Mhm.
sure there is a proper space for that group to get together. Because one of the things that, talking about that intentionality, one of the challenges in bringing the community together, especially in an area like Palm Springs, where starting early May to late September, you can't really be outside.
Right.
So we,
Right.
figure out with the group, okay, this is a venue that our partner is offering for you to meet. So that pressure on the group to figure out always, okay, where is our next location? That puts a lot of unnecessary burden. So at least at the beginning, Blue Zones can create those introductions and groups can start working together. Maybe a partner has the facility like a church and they open their space to a group that wants to explore dancing or any type or a book club or creating
Right.
those, helping those ambassadors that are interested in creating a Moai, a program like that with our resources, where at the end of the day, it's really about creating those connections. Between partners, between individuals. And I think as we interact with community members that have worked with us, when we ask them, what do you think that Blue Zones is best at? And very often they say, well, you're able to connect us with other people, whether are entities, whether just individuals in the communities, creating those connections and let people run with them and develop their own connections. I think connecting people has been probably one of the biggest added values that Blue Zones project brings.
Absolutely. And may I ask you, how has Blue Zones changed your personal life, your family's life, people in your community?
Sure. So I joined Blue Zones. As you mentioned at the beginning, I was running a different organization, and without even, I wasn't thinking about purpose because I didn't have those tools, right? I didn't have that
Right.
conversation that clicked with me. And I think I was just very frustrated. It wasn't the work environment, I think, was working for me anymore.
Mhm.
And also at personal level, was the same dynamic. And I saw the opportunity with Blue Zones, and I joined the team on October 1st last year. I think it was really a very eye-opening conversations, a series of events that really made me think more about what is it that I want to do,
Mm.
whether it was, professionally or personally. So I think just from very simple habits like eating that I think I adopted without even thinking about it. And I think, well, I want to say I wasn't intentional, but I was to some extent, but I think I wasn't forcing myself, open to the idea. And I kind of adopted those without actually forcing myself. Some eating habits, I lost about, 10 pounds. And I think, that's where the advantage of working for Blue Zones, we have those conversations, 24 hours, 7 days a week,
Right. So you
right?
stay motivated.
Right. It's my job to educate myself about all this new research that Blue Zones is doing, all these new conversations. So kind of they stuck with me and then adopt them, I think twice, right? And so I think that personally has been some of the very easy noticeable impacts. And I think, that I'm an introvert. I very social because of work. That's even the previous job, a lot of social events, a lot of social interactions. But I think with Blue Zones really better understood some of the tools that I have at my disposal to interact with people that are not necessarily in a professional environment, and really be more intentional about my social interactions that are more personal, that are more, let's say, have a personal meaning and not only a professional meaning. Because when you socialize for work, you have to put yourself out there. This is your job. You have to do it. And I think, as introverts, both of us is, how do we create the same mechanisms where it's or at a personal level. So I think that has been a very important aspect that I adopted and been, in that case, very intentional.
So did you pick up additional activity interests since you've been a part of Blue Zones? Or
I think so. It wasn't a process of I'm going to do this because it's good. That's what the research says. I think it was just, every once in a while I joined some of the Moai, some of the groups, whether it's running or hiking, not because I have to, because those are community driven. But I think it's an opportunity for me to meet people that otherwise I would not meet, putting myself out there, and whether it's a social event that I'm invited to, it's very easy to find an excuse and not go.
Right.
But I've been intentional about not finding those excuses and be there. So yeah, that has been, I think, some of the mechanisms that I adopted over the last 9-10 months that I think have been very, very beneficial.
Well, I have to say, for still finding my voice for the audience, how I met Mihai, because as true introverts, now that we're talking, it's interesting. After church was over and I heard you speak and I thought, oh, that's interesting. For a second, I thought, I really want to ask him, about AI. Our whole world is being turned upside down. Some people like it.
Yeah.
Some people don't. Some people are afraid of it. Most people are afraid of it, I'm finding. However, the two of us, like we mentioned, we find AI can be helpful and beneficial in what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I just want to go over how we met. I was talking to the pastor and talking to several people at our church. And afterwards, I thought, oh, then just go up and just ask him about AI. And it was hard, but I did.
Yeah.
And Mihai was open to it. We talked about it. And look at this. This is such a blessing. This has really blessed me, this conversation.
Likewise.
I said to Mihai, I have a podcast. And Mihai said, well, then I need to be on it. And I said, absolutely. And here we are. So it just goes to show that if we're, thank you for your time.
Thank you
this conversation.
for having us. And again, it's not only, of course, it's also my job, but I think I'm very passionate about. And how do you, I think, create those conversations in the community?
Right.
I think you being there at our Blue Ribbon celebration with Passion Church and kind of learning about Blue Zones, and, here we are on your podcast. I think, those small connections that are so important in a community. Before moving to Palm Springs, I lived in Washington, D.C., and I think it was so easy to meet people because it's a big city. You don't drive, you're not always in your car, you walk a lot or you take public transportation. And I think that's more difficult in areas like Palm Springs because you're always in your car, you're always home. You don't have those opportunities to have conversations with people that you've never met. So it's really being intentional and broadcasting to people what's available in the community, whether you are part of that initiative or just the curiosity.
Or heard about it, right?
Exactly. And I think, that has been, word of mouth has been such a crucial tool to increase visibility for our work in the community and the communities around Palm Springs. That we at Blue Zones, we talk about life radius and we think about a 20-mile radius. Research has shown that we live our lives within a 20-mile radius around the place our home is. Whether we drive to work or friends, that's kind of the radius, the area that we navigate on a daily basis, around 20 miles. And if we think about it, that's very true. I think for some people, it's even smaller than 20 miles, unfortunately.
Right.
But if you think about Palm Springs, it really covers the entire Coachella Valley. And while We are in Palm Springs. We focus on Palm Springs. A lot of our partners, a lot of the people that we work with are within that 20-mile radius. And as you were mentioning earlier, the ripple effect, it's exactly that. We learn about these habits. We learn about these new tools that have always been there. Now Blue
Right.
Zones is tasked to make them visible and make them accessible, but we can learn from those tools. And once we are exposed with them, we take those lessons to where we are, where we live, to our smaller community, our smaller group, and hopefully like a butterfly effect, that impact grows.
Yes. And let's go over the 5 blue zones area again.
So it's Okinawa, Japan. Those are the
Okinawa.
original 5. Okinawa, Japan. Loma Linda, California.
Yes.
Sardinia, Italy. Icaria, Greece. And Nicoya in Costa Rica. But to date, Blue Zones has implemented projects in around 75 communities around the US. And we work with around 7 million people around the US that have been part of Blue Zones projects.
7
And
million.
more projects will be launched soon. And in our region, currently there are 4 projects. Blue Zones project in the city of Coachella, the city of Palm Springs, the city of Banning, and the city of Riverside. We are for projects that are independent, but also working together because the communities are so different.
Mhm.
Like as I mentioned, the project in Palm Springs focuses on Palm Springs and community members that are around Palm Springs and just like you, attending Passion Church. That's how we structure our interactions.
Well, as we wrap up, is there anything that you want to say to the community to get out there and just give it a shot, and they're not quite sure about these blue zones? Come register for that August 8th event. I'm so excited. How do they get in contact with you, Mihai?
Our website, just Google Blue Zones Project Palm Springs, and it will take you to our website. We are on social media as well, obviously, these days. And just shoot us an email. We have some forms to which you can connect with us. We are everywhere in the community and all the time, maybe less now that there are 110 degrees, but we try to be very visible, very approachable, very accessible to everyone. And, this might sound very big, but it's never too late.
Very good point.
Those tools have always been there in the community. I think it's very easy to find a reason not to do things. And I think,
Absolutely.
I think that's probably the best advice I have to give people, and how welcoming people are and how intentional they are. And I think that energizes all of us at the end of the day.
I'll go ahead and include in the show notes how you can contact Mihai and be a part of these Moais, because, wow, if you want to live longer with more passion, this is the place to do it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mihai.
Yes. And I invite everyone to join our dancing Moai when we will
Yes,
launch
please.
it.
We're going to talk about that.
I love that idea. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go, I'd like to send out a heartfelt thank you to Mihai Patru and the Blue Zones Project Palm Springs team for sharing their time and inspiring us to build healthier, more connected communities. Congratulations to Passion Church at Palm Springs for becoming the first faith-based organization to earn Blue Zones Project approved status. To learn more about today's conversation, visit the show notes. Thanks for listening to Still Finding My Voice. See you next time.